These NFL hits from the past are so brutal, they'll make you question how anyone walked away unscathed. The NFL has always been a league defined by its physicality, where the toughest of the tough take the field and give it their all. But there was a time when the hits were even harder, the tackles even more punishing, and the players even more fearless. That's what we're exploring today, the hardest hits from back in the day that will leave you cringing. From the crack of the pads to the sound of helmets colliding, these hits are the stuff of legend. They're the moments that make you wince, that make you wonder how anyone could possibly walk away from that unscathed. But that's exactly what made the NFL so thrilling back in the day, the raw, unbridled energy of the players, the sheer force of the tackles, and the unwavering dedication to the game. Of course, it's easy to romanticize the past, to look back on those hits with a mix of nostalgia and admiration. But we have to remember that the game has changed significantly over the years, and for good reason. The NFL has implemented countless safety regulations, introduced new rules to protect players, and invested heavily in concussion protocol. It's a necessary evolution, one that prioritizes player safety above all else. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of those hard hits, let's take a step back and look at how the game has changed over the years. The NFL of the 70s, 80s, and 90s was a vastly different beast from the one we know today. Players were bigger, faster, and stronger, but they were also more reckless, more prone to taking risks that put themselves and others in harm's way. In the early days of the NFL, safety regulations were virtually non-existent. Players wore minimal protective gear, and the rules were lax, to say the least. It was a game of gladiators, where the strong survived and the weak were left behind. But as the years went by, the league began to take notice of the devastating toll that these hits were taking on players. The 80s saw a significant shift in the NFL's approach to safety, with the introduction of rules like the helmet-to-helmet penalty. It was a start, but it was only the beginning. In the 90s and 2000s, the league continued to crack down on dangerous hits, implementing stricter penalties and fines for players who crossed the line. So with that backdrop in mind, let's take a journey through the eras of the NFL, highlighting the key players who made their mark with bone-crushing tackles and game-changing hits. We'll start with the pioneers of the game, the men who paved the way for the modern NFL. In the 70s and 80s, players like Jack Lambert, Dick Butkus, and Mike Singletary were the epitome of toughness. They were the enforcers, the ones who patrolled the middle of the field, looking for anyone who dared to cross their path. Their hits were legendary, the stuff of NFL lore. One of the most iconic players of that era was Ronnie Lott, the hard-hitting safety who made a name for himself with his fearless style of play. Lott was a true pioneer, a player who embodied the ethos of the NFL back then, tough, physical, and unrelenting. As we move into the 90s, we start to see a new breed of players emerge. Guys like Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, and John Lynch were the new standard-bearers of the NFL, men who brought a level of intensity and ferocity to the game that was unmatched. These players were the masters of the tackle, men who could bring down an opponent with ease. But they were also the ones who pushed the limits of what was considered acceptable, who walked the fine line between physicality and brutality. Of course, with great power comes great responsibility, and the NFL has had to grapple with the consequences of these hits over the years. The rise of concussions, the devastating effects of CTE, and the long-term health impacts on players have all forced the league to re-examine its priorities. Through iconic game footage, statistics on injuries, and expert commentary, we can begin to understand the severity of these hits and their implications for players. We can see how the game has evolved, how the players have adapted, and how the NFL has responded to the challenges posed by these hard-hitting tackles. But even as we acknowledge the severity of these hits, there's a school of thought that says the game has become too soft, that the emphasis on safety has watered down the physicality of the NFL. It's a valid argument, one that sparks a heated debate about the balance between player safety and the thrill of the game. As we weigh the pros and cons, it's clear that the NFL is at a crossroads. On the one hand, we have the need to protect players from the devastating effects of these hits. On the other, we have the desire to preserve the raw, unbridled energy that makes the NFL so compelling. Ultimately, that's what these hard hits from back in the day are all about, shaping the NFL, and the ongoing debate about player safety versus the thrill of the game. They're a reminder of where we've come from, and a warning of where we might be headed if we're not careful. So what do you think, guys? What are some of your favorite hard-hitting plays in NFL history? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video, and don't forget to click on the playlist above to watch more NFL hard hits videos. Thanks for watching.